Hey everyone, welcome to episode 4. Wow, I can't believe it. 101 videos or 2 or whatever we're at now, and 4 episodes of my memoir. Um, I guess I'm using this crazy manic energy I have right now, uh, either productively or frivolously, depending on what your perspective is. Um, I'm just really grateful to everyone. This whole thing is a huge experiment, and it's not. It's a kind of anti-project in the sense that I have no desire to become a YouTube star or anything like that. It's not. This is not what I'm doing. This YouTube is a giant sketch pad for me that was staring me in the face the whole time, and I love it because it's easy. I can come up with an idea and just explore it instantly and post something. And as I said in the text, it's not about sort of trying to get attention from you guys. Rather, this is a way for me to share my ideas with you and sort of spend some time with you, but without the obligation that you have to watch the video, watch Ryan's video as soon as he posts it. It's more of a long-term thing. It's like, hey, I've got a 5 minutes to kill before the bus comes. I haven't watched Ryan's idiocy in a while. What's he up to? It's that kind of thing. So I know you all lead such busy, full lives. I don't want you to feel like, oh, you have pressure to watch this frivolous thing I'm doing. Um, but just rather know that it's out there, and it's a way that you can have a little bit of contact with me, and I can know that my stuff is out there if you want it. So anyway, the other thing I wanted to say before I go on with the episode is. I don't often go back and watch these videos more than about once. I rewatched them again after I made them and posted them to kind of see what I can learn from rewatching it. And that's the whole aim of these videos is I'm trying to learn from them, to have a document that I can respond to and sort of see what I've done and learn from it. And uh, sorry, I just lost my train of thought. This is another experiment too, and because I have had a full day, and I thought, okay, let's try to record an episode and see, in this frame of mind when I'm pretty raw and tired. Part of the reason for that is and to my point of all this, not really watching episodes more than once or so, is that I like to be able to move on, right? To put an idea out there, do it, learn from it, or rather explore it and learn from it, and then go on to the next thing. I think I at least fall into a trap where if I look at old work, then the creative flow sort of stops because you're back in those parameters where you were solving an older problem. So, but I rewatched the first episode of this, and I was really disappointed. It was not the tone. The tone was not right. It was really university lecture-y, and someone very close to me sort of intimated as much, and I kind of refused to accept it. But in sort of the calm, cool light of whatever the phrase is, light of day. Um, I can see that the tone was all wrong, and it really bothers me. Not because I made a mistake, because that's the whole point of this channel is making mistakes, and that's cool. That's how you learn. But more because this is special to me, and it's about other people, and it's a kind of homage, and it's not just me with my artistic antics. It's there's a deeper kind of thing going on here, and I really want to get it right. So, and what I mean by university lecture is the kind of, it's sort of built into this format, which is a bit of the challenge that I can't but monologue, right? I want to have a conversation with you, and that's the tone I want, but this requires that, although maybe I should do a live stream at some point. Anyway, and the thing is, like, I spend my days for the last, I won't say how many number of years, kind of gearing myself up several times a week to give a barn burner a 3-hour lecture. We have 3-hour classes where I work. Although I don't usually lecture for the whole time, we do other things. But nevertheless, the point is that you train yourself to do this, and it sort of takes over. And so it's going to take me a while to untrain myself to kind of get this right. So thanks for bearing with me. I don't want to lecture. I just want to be with you and sort of share my feelings and that kind of thing. So thanks for indulging me. I want these to be pleasant to watch. I know I look like a mess. I've got these Wolverine things happening, and I haven't quite figured out. I can't make these decisions right now. Like, it's just this kind of stuff's beyond me. So I know I'm a bit of a sight to look at. I'm sorry. So you can turn off the monitor and just listen to my sexy radio voice. Okay. So let's with that. I'm sorry, folks. So episode 4 is the program. The program. And this takes me back. This goes back early. This is my dad. I was in grade school, and I'm having a hard time pinning down the dates, the age I was exactly, but I would have been grade 3, maybe, something like that. Maybe a bit older. And Dad brought home, I can't even remember what the computer was. I don't have that piece of the memory. But I remember computer programs on cassette tapes. And so there was some kind of computer this was hooked up to. I remember a kind of modem device that used a telephone receiver, and you kind of stuck it into a unit that had 2 openings for the speakers, and it was the sound of the program digitally encoded on the cassette tape that was transmitted through the phone and received by the device so it's sort of, you have this sort of translation from digitally encoded to an analog sound that is then received and digitally encoded, re-encoded again. I guess I haven't worked on this stuff, so I'm probably getting it wrong, but that's the idea, right? You're sort of translating it across different media. And it was just so bizarre. Like, what a crazy, weird thing. First of all, the sound of it was so inhuman and grating and mechanical, but also organic at the same time. And it was magic, right? You hooked it all up and put the tape in and press play, and the machine would start doing its thing, and it was working. It was the program, the information was being fed into it, the program was being fed into it, and it was running the machine. So that was incredible too, right? Like, I kind of got, I guess, I'm obviously projecting onto a very hazy memory. I think I sort of got what was going on, in the sense that I understood that there was some kind of information on the tape that was being transferred, sent to the computer, and the computer was doing something with it. It was all working together. And I remember, let's see, it would have been the language, COBOL, maybe, perhaps BASIC. I'm not sure. I don't remember what the programs did. I just remember the sort of the physicality of it and the weirdness of it all. And so that was the first introduction to the program. And from then on, there will be another episode about sort of my introduction to personal computing through my uncle Doug. That's a separate story, and that's where the origin of what I'm talking about now kind of takes a different direction when that happens a bit later. But from that point forward, I was in a world in which computers operated, and there were programs, and there were sort of a special kind of information that was sort of cassette tape. What was my analogy as a kid? Of course, music, right? So it's like you're feeding a song and it's audio. It's an audio thing. You hear it. So there's sort of that analogy that is like a song. A program is like a song, and it's sort of a discrete thing. but it's not quite clear what its status is. It's writing, but it's not at the same time. And again, I'm using these adult, like, professor terms for something that I, could only intuit as a kid. Uh, but that was the beginning, and that's a very interesting world in which you have these kind of units of writing that go around and they do things. And here I'll switch into my professorial mode. This makes me think of, in linguistics, there's a concept of called performativity, where certain kinds of speech acts, like statement, when you make a statement in a certain situation, um, create effects. Like when you say something, it actually changes something in the world. So, for example, the classic example is wedding vows. Right, saying "I do" is a performative statement. It actually, from a certain perspective, creates a legal situation, and so forth. So, performative speech acts, the idea of speech that actually does something in the real world, as opposed to just talks about the world, that was really, I think, and again, I wouldn't have understood any of this as a kid, but just looking back, I can see how that idea was sort of planted, and it took root. And let's see what else. I remember junior high school. They did teach. We had Apple II computers. Um, so that is, so that takes me into the world of personal computing, and that'll intersect with the Doug stuff. But that's, again, I want to talk about that later. But that was an experience of, okay, that's when they started to teach us a little bit of programming, basic. I remember games on those computers. I remember a kind of entrepreneurial game of running a car wash. It was all text-based, and you had to kind of figure out how you spent your money in order to, how much soap did you buy and how many employees did you have, and really effective, actually, in teaching. I mean, it was fun to play, but it was teaching you stuff while you played, inspire yourself. I was not a great programmer, and something I never pursued. I don't have the mind for it. And I wrote a program. I remember trying to write a program of a worm race in BASIC. And you could place bets on. There were like 6 worms, and they raced across the screen. And I remember having to figure out how to use the random function. So, you'd have a random distribution, and you could bet on which worm would win. And I got as far as getting them to go across the screen, but the rest of it was beyond me. I think, and I remember the teacher. I think the word "cute" was used in their assessment of my work. Future Elon Musk, or whatever. Anyway, so that was. But I was fascinated, and I remember just how kind of opaque and inaccessible that whole world was, which made it more wonderful and mysterious. I remember going to the library to try to find books on programming. Like, I couldn't figure it out at school, so I'm like, okay, maybe I can find some books on this. Right, imagine it, kiddies. Like, you couldn't just look it up on Google. You had to go to the library, and then when you got there, you discovered that, well, they haven't really bought computer books from the last, 7 years or so, and so it's a bit of a challenge. And then what you do find, I remember finding a book and getting really excited about it. It looked like it told you how to make this elaborate kind of role-playing game with fancy graphics, and I read it, and I'm like, there's no program in here. It just sort of described described the game that you would program. So that was the end of my, I sort of gave up on programming at that point. I remember, though, going to a math competition with my fellow nerds, and I was like by far the least capable. Again, I couldn't even complete a simple basic worm race program. But I went to this thing, and they were so kind to me. I was like the supply kid. I was like, if someone suddenly got sick and couldn't, complete their math Olympic thing, I would go in and lose it for everyone. But that was wondrous, though, because there was I'm sorry, I won't be able to remember the year. But I remember seeing color um, computing for the first time. It was an Amiga, and it was a world of sound and vision. So color computer graphics, which I remember just being really really blown away by that. And the same Amiga was playing. I remember electronic music, kind of encountering it, at least being made by a computer for the first time. I think it was playing Pachelbel's Canon, and it was beautiful. It was amazing. It was this magical machine. Um, let's see, programming later. Let's see, would have been early undergrad. This is the early kind of internet days of message boards and text-based things, and just getting into email lists and that kind of thing. I got involved with an experimental writing email list that I co-managed for a number of years through before and during undergrad with my friend Alan Sondheim, who's a great artist and writer and thinker. So I learned a little bit of, I think I learned how to program. I learned like HTML, a bit of HTML 1.0. I tried putting together a web page or two. It never really took. But that whole world to me was it was kind of the opposite in terms of how it related to text and what I was getting into. I was just starting those are my BFA years when I was doing an art degree, but I was really into art, to writing, and I was writing a lot of criticism, and I was into history, and it was the seeds of my whole art history thing were being planted. And I was in a world of text and of printed matter, and this kind of thing, and I was being slowly shunted towards the world of the book, the world of academia. And meanwhile, this whole universe of text, instant electronic communication was starting to kind of coalesce as I was doing that. So there's this kind of a weird thing happening where it's like I was going back into the past, and yet the future was kind of increasingly happening, sort of accelerating rather. And that had consequences as well, that sort of shift in media for how art history was taught, how I did it. I did it the old-fashioned way. People my generation, you had to look it up. You had to go and find there were article indexes that were printed volumes. So if you wanted to find, you're looking for articles on a certain subject, you couldn't just put it into the search engine. You had to find these multi-volume article indexes that index every article that was published year by year, categorized by subject matter. And so you go in and have to find the year. Okay, what year am I looking for? And then there are other indexes that cross-referenced it, and so you kind of learn this way of navigating printed matter. And this is the world of the card catalog, where there's this piece of furniture, right, a cabinet that has little index cards in it, 3x5 inch index cards, each one with the information for an object in the library, a book. And you looked it up, and you had to you found the call number, and you wrote it down, and you went and you found it. And it was all, I use this term, I'm sorry, it's a pretentious term, but it's useful for me, at least. I don't know how to not use it. Spatialized. Everything was spatialized. You had a sense that you were moving within, physically, your body was moving within this kind of, however to describe it, space rather, that was linked to physical index cards that sat in a cabinet that sort of physically represented the entire library. And the space of it, the space of browsing, the shelf, which is increasingly, that's a consequence of digitization, that now when books are digitized, increasingly they're no longer accessible. And what that means is you lose that, the kind of joy of random discovery of browsing the shelves. So these funny things happen as we move stuff online. I wouldn't go back. I mean, the ability to is mind blowing. The ability to do all of this electronically, and the number of hours, you have no idea the number of hours of labor that just being able to do it instantly, sitting in your pajamas, is saved, and that is a great boon to scholarship and the life of the mind and the kind of gift of knowledge to the human species and all of that. Anyway, I'm getting quite far afield here, but that's all of these reflections are rooted in that initial. They go back to that initial encounter with the strangeness of programming and this kind of creation of a new category, or for what was for me was a new category of information, that was different from everyday speech, but you could still hear it, and this sort of thing. So a kind of separation of, well, that's not the right way of thinking about it. Anyway, I think I'm losing steam here, so I'm going to stop there, and I love you a lot. Thanks everyone for listening and watching.